Nice. 881. I've turned. You know, there was never a moment in time where I said, wow, I want to be a dog trainer. I think my life was always guided in that direction. Nice. Check, 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 check. Leaving. Penny, it's a blind there, right? So check and go. Today, where I am today, I absolutely adore training my own dogs, but I love helping other people achieve things they never thought possible with their own dogs. And the heartfelt letters that I get, the tearful people who say, you know, we were going to have to euthanize this dog because we couldn't fix it, and with your help now, I mean, he's just a great family pet, and we're doing amazing things in agility, and that's what I love about what I do today. Nice, keep going. Nice. Would have been a little slower, right? You know, it's true I didn't get my very first dog on my own until I was in my late 20s. I had trained dogs really my whole life, but I never owned one. So my sister, she had conformation show dogs, and when she would come home and leave the dogs at home, I would teach them tricks, which really was unimportant to her and her time in the show ring, but I loved to do it. I trained so many of other people's dogs before I ever owned my very first dog, and to me that was a huge, huge blessing in my life, because I got to see how different breeds of dogs responded. And a real pivotal point for me was a little farm dog that I got. It was a puppy that I was training, and it was a rough collie. And the books told me, teaching the dog to sit, you pull up on the collar and push down on their butt. Well, this little puppy wasn't going to take it. And so I thought, well, I had success training all these tricks in the past. Why don't I just apply that and teach her to sit like it was a trick? And this dog who I struggled with for 7 days to teach a simple sit, by the next 7 days, I taught her about 15 tricks. All I had to do was connect with her on a level that she was trying to teach me to do. You know what? Dogs don't need to be pushed around. Dogs need to be engaged and find out what they love and work with their innate behaviors. When I did decide to get my first dog, I was really involved with horses at the time and in dressage, and everybody at the barn had a Jack Russell, so I started looking for my first Jack Russell. And when I did go and look at a litter, there was only one puppy left. There were 7 in the litter, 1 puppy left. She didn't have proper ears for a Jack Russell, and being from my conformation background, I needed the dog with proper ears. Plus she was the last puppy, so really how good could she be? And I decided to pass, and I told the fellow I wasn't interested, and he said, you know what, I'm going to give you the night, and you call me tomorrow morning and tell me for sure if you want me to sell her to somebody else. And I never gave that another thought that night. I knew I didn't want that puppy, but I was being polite. I didn't want to let him know I didn't think his puppy was worth anything. I got up the next morning, I dialed the phone with the intention of saying, sell the puppy. And as the phone was ringing, this voice in my head said, this dog's going to change your life. And at that moment, he picked up the phone and I said, I'll come over and bring a check. And that's how I got Shelby, who ended up being a national champion in the United States. And she was a phenomenal dog. I mean, I learned so much from her, and she's who started my career. Dig here, shoulder back, and say, get back, and just leave. Because that's going to give him more enthusiasm and drive in your body motion, right? Okay. But while you're saying get back, and then he has to wait for you to get all across the bar, and he's a patient boy and he's a really good dog, but I don't want him to be patient. I want him to, drive. So I want you to just be, let your hair down. Dig, 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 go. Shoulder back. Wah! Get back and power. Just drive all through that.
I'll try.
Go crazy. You're allowed to make a mistake.
You ready?
I've had a lot of agility dogs in my career, and I've had a lot of success with all of my agility dogs. But when I think of the biggest challenges I've had, definitely 2 stand out, and that would be Buzzy and Decaf. And for completely opposite reasons. Buzzy was a high drive, over the top border collie who was manic. Everything he did incredibly fast. Now Buzzy today is 17 and a half years old, and he still enjoys life the way he did his entire life. Decaf, who is going to be 14 next month, she was the polar opposite of Buzzy. She was, a little bit worried. She didn't like different textures under her feet, and she didn't like the wind blowing the flag. So it took a lot of time to build her confidence to want to be fast. Decaf was never as fast at an agility trial that she was at home until she was 5 years old. But it was never a point to me where I was disappointed. It was always a process, and we're always getting better, and we're always getting more confident. And I think that when you really love the dog, that you don't look at the shortcomings, you look at what the dog's brilliant at, and you keep building those up and bringing along the shortcomings in the dog's time. As challenging as it was, Buzzy went on to become a Canadian national champion and a US national champion. And Decaf went on to win more national championships, and actually 2 world championships. But she won more national championships than any dog I've ever owned. Okay, and just reward. So what you're doing is you are watching for her on this arm and then changing to that. By watching for her, you ask her to come to this side of the jump, and then when you change, you bring her to this side. If you change and pick her up on that arm, you get a better line all the way through there. What makes some dogs more difficult to handle in agility than others definitely is the dog's predictive nature, and the handler having an understanding of what that predictive nature means and will bring to them. You pick up a set of car keys in your house and you'll immediately see what I mean by predictive nature. The dog that loves car rides, they're running to the front door. The dogs who doesn't like a car ride, they're maybe running to the bedroom or to their crate. They don't want to go with you because they're predicting the outcome. And all dogs anticipate what's coming next. It's what kept their ancestors alive in the wild. When you hear something coming up behind you, you better get out of there. And the thing is with our agility dogs, that there are some that are hardwired. A terrier was bred to go run straight lines, and a border collie was bred to herd sheep in more of a curved line. Use that to your advantage. That when you're training a terrier to go around to the backside of a wing, you know that they're going to want to go over the jump because that's the straightest line that they see. You have to put a great value in reasoning why they should go around that. Where a border collie, as soon as you put any motion towards that, they're happy to go around the backside. So it's a blessing on one hand, but border collies, when you move, are often the young dogs will run around jumps. So it can be a blessing and it can be a curse. Using and understanding the dog's predictive nature, I think that's the number one weakness that people who don't have success with dogs are struggling with. But the people at the top of the game, the people who have real success in agility, they really understand a dog's predictive nature and they use it to their best benefit. I really don't think there's such a thing as the perfect person to be the ideal handler in agility. There you see success in all different forms. Some people would say, wow, it's the 20-year-old who can sprint like the wind. They're the perfect handler, but they don't have the experience. And so they aren't going to have, win after win after win. And then you could say, well, it's the experienced person, but a lot of times those of us with experience are not as young or as agile as the younger people. We just have to come up with more creative ways to get those wins. So I think if you're handling your dog in agility in a way that is seeing the sport through the dog's eyes and taking advantage of your greatest attributes as a person at that stage of your life, then success is possible with any handler in any shape or form or age. So get your feet pointing where you want to go. There you go. Keep moving. Don't wait on them. Come. I think Linda's been a great student of our program here, as well as a phenomenal instructor of our program now. And she's really learned to maximize areas that her and her dog are brilliant at in order to overcome areas that she may not be as strong in. And that really should be encouraging and motivating to anybody in the sport of agility, because if you focus on bringing out the best in your dog and working with what you've got, everybody can have success. It would really be difficult to pick just one key to agility handling. When I look at not just my own handling, but other very successful handlers in the sport of agility, I see 5 common keys. And the first one was really highlighted years ago by American agility superstar Linda Mecklenburg, who really brought out what all of us had been doing, whether consciously or subconsciously, and that is recognizing how our motion as a handler impacts the dog's line. So definitely number one, and I think the most important thing that people consider when they're handling is how do they want the dog to go? Do they want the dog to go long on an obstacle? Then they show them a lot of motion, and to start to manipulate your own speed in order to create what you want from your dog. So that definitely is the first skill that is important. The second one is cueing, and how you cue the dog physically. So as your dog's running on your right side, your body line and what's created from your head, your shoulder, your arms, your hips, your knees, that's a body line that drives the dog forward. And all of us handling, we may put a lot of focus on things like where our hands go, our feet go, our knees go, in order to direct the dog where we want to go. So it definitely is an important skill for everybody. The third one are verbal cues. And there are handlers that will run around and handle their dog brilliantly, successfully, without using any verbal cues. And then there's handlers like myself who have to put a lot of importance on teaching your dog verbal cues. And I think the difference is the differential between your top speed as a handler and your dog's top speed as a dog. If that's huge and the dog is a lot faster than you, you really are going to need verbal cues. When I'm running as a handler, I like my body and my physical cues to support what my verbal cues are saying, but when you have dogs that are so much faster than you, there's going to come a point on course when you are going to need to rely on those verbal cues. So if you're a super fast runner and can always outrun your dog, you don't need to put that much emphasis on the verbal cues compared to somebody like myself. The next important key would be your positional cues, and that is where you are in relation to your dog and the obstacles. So if my dog is running on my right side, they know with a great deal of certainty that I only want them to go straight or to turn left. There will never be a time I'll want them to turn that way based on my position. And if I ever wanted them to turn away, there would be a new physical cue or a new verbal cue to get them to turn away. So my position in relation to the dog and the obstacles gives the dog a lot of good information, but it certainly isn't as important as the keys above it. And the last key that I see is really being significantly important to all agility handlers is that of timing and timeliness. Now, timing is that moment of time when you want to execute, when your dog gets to this point and you execute a move. That is timing, getting that sweet spot so they're matched up just right. Where timeliness is using all the tools in your advantage, to your advantage to give the cues to your dog in a way that makes timing be less important. And I see those 5 keys you'll see through everybody's handling. Now, somebody who is more novice, they may not be taking advantage of those 5 at all. Where everybody at the top of the game of agility, they will be putting more emphasis on one of those 5 keys in a way that brings out the best in their dogs and plays to their greatest attributes as a handler. Obviously all 5 of those elements are crazy important to those of us having success in the sport of agility. But the one that I find most interesting is the element of timing and timeliness. And that's why I'm going to be digging deeper into it in my next video in the Handling 360 series. After learning about my story, you can see how similar we all really are. Dog owners who are embracing new challenges as we move forward on our journeys with the dogs that we love. Over the next 10 days, I have 3 more training videos that I want to share with you in order to help bring more clarity and connection to your teamwork with your own agility dog. In order to continue this journey, be sure to enter your name and email address in the box you'll find on this page in order to gain access to the rest of our series. In my upcoming video, I'm going to show you how you can magically grow time for yourself as an agility handler so you'll never be left behind again after a front cross. But for today, I have a little surprise for you. I put together a brand new ebook that I decided to give away in order to help you get a more thorough understanding of the details of what I presented here today. Finding Your Handling Balance will show you how to identify those 5 keys to handling success and give you the tools that you need to quickly and easily break down the components of your own handling in order to maximize your strengths and minimize your challenges. You'll receive a copy of that ebook once you enter your name and email address. But before you leave, I'd love to hear about your beginnings in agility. What motivated you to train your first agility dog? And what score did you get when you went through the Finding Your Handling Balance exercise in the ebook? Please leave me a comment and be sure to share this free video series with your friends. I'll see you next time on Handling 360.